Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. Welcome to the Gita class. This is the first Gita class of this year. So Happy New Year, everybody. It's also the birthday of Swami Turiyanandaji, one of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. And he is one of those monks who was here actually in New York. After Swami Vivekananda, Swami Sarvapriyananda was here, and then Swami Turiyanandaji was here very briefly, few months. And then, of course, Swami Abhedanji for 2 decades. I was just thinking, he was a staunch Vedantin, non-dualist, very, very fond of the Bhagavad Gita. But his Gita lesson, I'm remembering the anecdote told by Swami Prabhavanandaji, the Swami who founded the Vedanta Society of Southern California in Hollywood. He said, when he was a young monk in Benares, Kashi in Benares, at that time Swami Turiyanandaji was very old and ailing, but he was there because that ashram has a hospital attached to it. So the old Swami was there at that time. And Swami Prabhavanji said, this is a good opportunity for me to learn the Gita, because Swami Turiyananda is here. Who better to learn it from than Swami Turiyananda? So he said that I started pestering him to teach me the Gita. At first he put me off, then he finally agreed, said that you can come tomorrow in the morning with your Gita, come and meet me. So the next morning, with all eagerness, he said, I went with the Gita to Swami Turiyanandaji. And Swami Turiyanandaji said that take up one verse of the Gita, learn it, memorize it, meditate, and try to practice it in your life, and then go on to the next verse. This is my first and my last lesson in the Gita to you. So luckily I don't prescribe to that method of teaching the Gita. You would have very few students left. But he himself did it that way. So Swami Turiyanji said when he used to meditate and do spiritual practices in Uttar Kashi, in Swargashram near Rishikesh, he said, I would take up a verse, sometimes of the Gita or the Upanishads, meditate upon it for days together. He said that's the time when he completed the memorization of all the major Upanishads. Gita already had memorized earlier in his childhood. All right. We are now learning the science of the 3 gunas, Sattva guna, Rajaguna and Tamoguna. We were on the 10th verse. Yes. So the 10th verse. Rajastamaschabhibhuya Sattvam bhavati bharata Rajasatvam tamascaiva Tamasatvam rajastatha Sattva manifests, O descendant of Bharata, overpowering Rajas and Tamas. Rajas manifests, overpowering Sattva and Tamas, overpowering Sattva and Tamas, and likewise Tamas manifests, overpowering Sattva and Rajas. Basically, the 3 gunas are dynamic and constantly in change, in a flux. Sometimes we can see in our own state of mind, body, senses, energy levels. Sometimes we feel sattvic, sometimes we feel rajasic, sometimes tamasic, and it changes. So Sattva guna sometimes predominates over the rajas and tamas. Sometimes the other ones, one of the others predominates over the other 2. Now what happens when each of them predominates? He points it out so that we can observe it in ourselves. 11th verse. Sarvadvareshu dehesmin prakasha upajayate Jnanam yada tada vidyat, jnanam yada tada vidyat, vivriddham sattvam ityuta. When through all the sense openings in this body the light of knowledge radiates, then indeed one should know that sattva predominates. Alright. So sattva guna. He says, Sarvadareshu dehesmin. In all the, it literally means through all the gates, all the windows or the gates of this body, light floods. There's a flood of light. What it just means is alertness, luminosity, knowledge, sensitivity. I once asked a monk, after I became a monk, I asked a senior monk, so when you become a monk, do the senses become more sensitive or less? He said more. If you do it right, the senses and the mind, they all become more sensitive. That is what is meant here by a flood of light. So all the 5 doors of the senses, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and all the activities also, actions, what we do, the work that we do, we become much more sensitive, much more careful, much more attentive. I'll give you a couple of examples. This great Vedanta teacher I used to go to, he was elderly and quite sick at that time actually. I used to go to him in his last years of his life. I used to go to him with questions about Vedanta, but a couple of little anecdotes I'll tell you, which points to this sattva guna. One day, he asked me to pin 2 pieces of a document with 2 printed pages, to pin it. So I put the pin through it, and he said, no, not like this. He took it from me, and he put the sharp edge of the pin between the 2 pages, so that it doesn't stick out and, it can by chance, we can prick somebody's finger. So a small thing like that. Another day, he asked me, switch on the light. And it was daytime, there was no need to switch on the light, but he was teaching me something. So I switched it on, there was a click sound. He said, why did it make a sound? You can switch it on without making a sound, do it again. So I did it again, there was a tiny click. He said, do it once more. I again switched it off and switched it on carefully, mindfully, and there was no sound. A tamasic mind will forget to shut the door anyway. So, one meditation master suggests, you want to calm down your mind, shut the door, but take 5 minutes to shut it. Slowly, utterly slowly for 5 minutes. It will calm you down very fast. So a sattvic mind is alert in this way. The work also it does is alert. In all the senses. It's like a light shining through all the senses. I remember I had heard from a monk talking about Swami Vireshwaranandaji, the 10th president of our order, Prabhu Maharaj. He was a tiny, tiny man. When he passed, of course he was very ill, but he was only 26 kgs when he passed. So, kilograms, so that would have been what, 50 pounds? Even when he was healthy, he was not much more heavier than that. He was a tiny, tiny man. But those who have seen him, one monk told me, it's like a light shone through him. Another monk told me, at that time computers had just come into being, like PCs and all. He says, if you see Prabhu Maharaj, one felt, if you knew him, one felt that every cell of his body was like a computer chip. It's just like he barely had a body, it's something like that. So that is the sign of a great development of sattva guna. In yogis you will find that. In actions, about Swami Premeshanandaji, his attendant told me, Swami Premeshanandaji, a disciple of the Holy Mother, a great saintly person. In his old age he was being wheeled along in a perambulator, in a wheelchair, and somebody in the monastery, in the garden, they were chopping wood, and as they wheeled the old Swami past, he said, stop, give me the axe. And then he gave some 10 strokes on the wood, And the attendant told me, we were amazed to see this old Swami so feeble, but he did it, every blow fell on the exact same spot. And he said, the monk who was working earlier, every blow was falling in a different spot. Swami Brahmananda, I think it is the story of Swami Brahmananda, again about Swami Vireshwaranji. So Swami Vireshwaranji was a young monk at that time. Swami Brahmananda said, show me the young monks, they are peeling potatoes. Show me the peeled potatoes. And he picked out one and he said, who's done this? Maybe it's an apocryphal story. I don't know how from a bunch of potatoes, how could they find out who's peeled it? But it turned out that it was Prabhu Maharaj had peeled this potato. He says, the one who has done this can meditate. That's a sign of Sattva guna. So in all the senses, as if light streams through, not that you become like a radium clock or something like that, you should glow in the dark. It's alert. One can feel it. And one gets it sometimes. Everybody gets a little bit of it sometimes. But if it's predominant, that's generally your state, generally. Also, the mind, the intellect also becomes clear. So you're able to hear? So intellect also becomes clear. Something went off. No, it's audible at the back, right? The intellect also becomes clear. What is to be done and what is not to be done is very clear. What is right and what is wrong is very clear and stark. What is real and what is unreal, what is valuable in life, the spiritual reality, God is valuable in life, the world is transitory, this becomes clear. Not only that, the mind becomes pure in Sattva guna, so it is able to execute what it understands. The intellect understands something and the mind is able to execute it. Like the poet says, between the intention and the act falls the shadow. Very beautifully put. I think Eliot said it. Between the intention and the act falls the shadow. That's for most of us. But for the sattvic person, it's much easier to do what is right. You know what is right and you're able to do it much more easily. Then he says here, Dehesmin, in this body. He says, Sarva dvareshu dehesmin, in all the windows in this body. Now there is a meaning here. He emphasizes in this body. The three gunas are there in the bodies of all living beings. But it is only in the human being that you can have an excess of Sattva guna, an extraordinary development of Sattva guna. Because the human mind, body, nervous system is capable of knowledge of the higher functionings of the mind and intellect. So sattvic qualities are, for other animals, living beings, it's mostly tamas or rajas. And that too of a lower variety. But the higher sattva is possible in a human body. And therefore it's a great opportunity. The religions will never tire of telling you what an important, what a valuable thing a human birth is. So, in terms of the three gunas, it is here in this birth that we finally have the capacity, the freedom, the independence to deal with these three gunas, to overcome rajas and tamas and maximize sattva and be spiritual. One more point I wanted to make here is that, yes, also he says, Vivriddham sattvam ityuta. When this light comes, when this alertness comes, when this mind and intellect are in this very suitable state for spirituality, it is naturally you feel knowledge and happiness. These are the two characteristics of Sattva guna. That I know or I want to know. And a general feeling of well-being and happiness is there. Balance and happiness. But remember, it is due to Sattva guna. It is one of the gunas of Prakriti. The general, the ego should not immediately claim that normally what happens is, see, I am so knowledgeable. I am so happy and peaceful. I am so disciplined. I am a real yogi. No, this is just the manifestation of Sattva guna in the mind and the body. That's what enables you to do all these things for the time being. So do not be identified. Even with such a good thing as Sattva guna, do not be identified with it. First of all, it's not the truth. You are the witness. You are not the Sattva guna itself. Sattva guna is a quality, is a constituent of Prakriti, and it is in the ascendant in the body-mind system at that time. That's why this desire to learn, to know, this luminosity in the senses, in the mind, in the intellect, all of this manifests. That's why this peace and happiness, this ability to discipline oneself, it manifests. So you don't take it as, don't let the ego claim it. That, see, I'm doing so well. I'm such a good yogi or a good monk or whatever it is. Yes. Developing this a little more, all three gunas are playing in the body-mind. In the body, the sensory system, the mind, and emotions, and the intellect, the three gunas are playing. One of them increases, dominating the other two, and then the others come up, dominating the other pair. So this goes on. Then what am I? I am not this sattvic person. I am not this rajasic person, nor am I this tamasic person. I am in fact something much higher and greater than all of them. I am this luminous consciousness, the spirit itself. The sattva, rajas, tamas are also part of material nature. It's the body, it's nature. So know that you are the witness of the three gunas. These three keep changing, you don't keep changing. I am the same one who felt sleepy in the morning, and then after a cup of coffee, now I feel alert and active. So I felt tamasic, now I feel rajasic. And then I go into the class, and then I feel tamasic again, sleepy. But after a while it passes. I used to think the people fall asleep in Vedanta class. And then I went to school for a while, 7 or 8 months. Then I would fall asleep a wave of sleep would come. I could hardly keep my eyes open, but only for a few minutes. And then it would pass, and then you can concentrate. So tamas, maybe a wave goes away, and then you concentrate. So these come and go. I am the same one. The important thing to see is, first of all, the gunas are changing. Note. We can easily see it in our daily experience. And then he says, then what he is pointing out is, if you are able to see the changes in the gunas, the increase and decline in these gunas, then you are none of them. See, the I which felt lazy and sleepy, the I which felt dynamic and active and energetic, is the I which feels balanced and concentrated and focused and alert. Then what is that I? Is it lazy, or is it energetic, or is it concentrated and alert? None of them. It is just bare awareness, existence, consciousness, bliss. It is the self. It's the Atman. In fact, here in these verses is an implicit argument for the Atman. The argument is that if we know the changing, the knower must be unchanging. Without an unchanging knower, the changing cannot be known. Another changeful thing, one changeful thing cannot observe another changeful thing. There must be some unchanging background. This is an argument. I mean, you can argue against it also, but it's an implicit argument. You find it in Vedanta. So this argument is there. The most important thing here is the benefit that Sattva Guna gives for spiritual life. So when Sattva Guna is there, that's why Sattva Guna is so valuable for spiritual life. When Sattva Guna is there, we are not inadvertent. Inadvertence is caused due to Tamaguna. We work efficiently without making mistakes. We are not sloppy. And if we are not sloppy in our work, we will not be sloppy in our prayer, in our study, in our meditation also. Those are higher activities. If somebody is sloppy externally, this absolutely sure that we'll be sloppy internally also, much worse. Those higher activities, if the mind is alert and luminous, it will be reflected in the actions of the person also. That's why in the monastery, when you're trained as monks, they are particular about how the small actions. I remember when I first became a monk, and we used to wear these dhotis, and I never washed a dhoti, so for the first time, you put it in a bucket of water and you wash it and wring out the water, and then you throw it in the clothes line and make it to dry it. But I threw it there. I didn't see any difference. But immediately another monk, a young novice actually, a little senior to me, he said, not like that. He comes and the edges of the cloth are perfectly adjusted, and he airs it so that the cloth doesn't stick together. I said, never noticed that. Immediately you notice it. One of the early, small, very small things. We go into the Swami's, the head of the ashram. He calls us to his room to talk about something. So the custom is to you take off your sandals outside the room of the Swami. So I took it up there. He said, not there. The next person who comes in will be put to the inconvenience. You take it off and put it properly at the side and then come in. Simple things. So this is all a development of Sattva Guna. These are in the smallest things, not inadvertent, not sloppy. So once the Swami told me, go clean that room, a big classroom in the building. So I cleaned it, swept it and wiped it clean and everything. And then the Swami came to inspect. First thing he did was, I still remember, to my mortification, instead of looking at all the nice places I had cleaned, he opened the door and looked at behind the door. And there was dust behind the door. And he said, do it again. Do it again. Yes. So this is, then one is able to practice spiritual disciplines. You get up very early in the morning. It is easy to get up early in the morning. You sit for meditation. You don't feel sleepy when you're sitting for meditation or restless. If you feel sleepy when sitting for meditation, it is tamoguna. If you feel restless when you're sitting for meditation, it's rajoguna. But you like the quiet and peace and the centeredness of meditation. It's a taste developed from meditation very easily in Sattva Guna. So the studies become luminous. The book speaks to you. And you like the devotional practices. I used to see that some of the novices would love working in the temple. They would do more than what was required. So they would go maybe make a garland like this, a garland for Sri Ramakrishna, or in a temple they would sit in their rest time and do something extra. They liked it. So that's a sign of Sattva Guna. And therefore, Sattva Guna is very valuable for spiritual life, and we should try to develop it. Always remembering it's a function of body-mind. It can be generated, it will come, it will also dissipate after some time. The personality can be made Sattva predominant. If you can do that, spiritual life will be easier. Remember, Sattvic and spirituality are not the same thing. A Sattvic personality may be non-spiritual. There are so many people who are very Sattvic, very intellectual, very creative maybe, great musicians. Their minds are Sattvic, the senses are Sattvic, but they don't have a spiritual bone in their bodies. They could be atheistic, completely uninterested in spiritual life. It could be. And it's not necessary that a spiritual person is to begin with Sattvic. A person can be tamasic and spiritual, or rajasic and spiritual, or a mixture of them. Difficult, but at least the main thing is, what do you want? What do you want? Do I want spirituality? Do I love God? I mean, say, no, not that much. All right, but do I want to love God a lot? Yes. In that case, you're spiritual. And then the struggle will be to develop Sattva Guna. That's why Sattva Guna is very valuable for spiritual seekers. That's why this discussion is there, in fact. For ourselves, always remember, for ourselves, not to point out flaws in others. So you're on the spectrum between rajas and tamas. I can see that. It's very easy to see it in others. The commentator here, Sridhar Swami, he says, Sarveshu api dvareshu, in all the doors. Doors means the doors of the body. There's a book, The Doors of Perception. Aldous Huxley, I think. The Doors of Perception. Shrotradeshu, in the ears, eyes, etc. Shabdadi jnanatmaka prakasha, luminosity. But luminosity of what? Of sound, of sight and sound and smell and taste and touch, and clarity of thought, the strength of will. These are all qualities of Sattva Guna. This is what is being called light here. Tada anena prakashalingena. By this, the presence of this luminosity in the mind, in the body, one can understand sattvam vivriddham, that Sattva Guna has increased. Again, Sattva Guna has increased. Don't be attached to it. Know very clearly that I am a witness of this too. It was always a struggle at the beginning. I remember one of my friends, a monk, so he had a terrible time getting up early in the morning. And he would take naps. If somehow come for the morning meditation or miss the morning meditation, and he would be sleeping. And the senior swamis would be on his case, as the saying goes. So once after morning meditation, I and a friend of mine, we went to visit this other young monk, a friend of ours, because we hadn't seen him in morning meditation. And sure enough, it was a cold day, a very early morning cold, just after sunrise. He was wrapped up in his blanket and sleeping happily. We shrugged, okay. We came out of the room, and then we saw a senior Swami who was a strict disciplinarian. He was, with a cup of tea, he was walking, taking a morning walk, supervising the children at their morning exercises. And he was going to that young monk's room. He says, let me see, is he meditating or not? If he is not, if he's sleeping, I'll pour this hot tea in his ears. And I and my friend, we stood outside. Oh no, what's going to happen? Because he's sleeping, we just saw that. And then that senior monk came out, still sipping the tea, and he said, I was wrong. He's a good boy, he's meditating. Then he walked away, and we were puzzled. We just saw he was sleeping. So we sneaked back into the room and we saw, and that young man, he had sat up. And with the quilt wrapped around him, only the two eyes were visible, and he was looking like this at us. Because he was dozing, but he had heard the Swami coming in saying, I'm going to pour the hot tea in. So he quickly sat up and sat like this, as if he's pretending to meditate. Unfortunately, he didn't make it. He left the order later on. Then comes Rajas, 12th verse. Lobha pravrittirarambha, karmanama rajasyeta nijayante, vivriddhe bharatarshabha, greed, activity, undertaking of works, restlessness, desire, these prevail, O best of the Bharatas, when Rajas predominates. So the commentator here says, Lobha means greed. And he explains, Dhanadhyagame bahuda jayamane api punah vardhamano abhilasha. So when wealth and property and gadgets and whatever you like, books, when they come in, when you're getting more and more of them, much more than you would have ever expected in your life, it's all going very well. And there is endless desire, let more come. I have got so much money now, I am a millionaire, now I have to become a multi-millionaire. I'm a billionaire, now I have to become a multi-billionaire. See, this is much more than I ever expected in my life. And yet, my desire just keeps on increasing. And I'm not even aware of it. It seems very natural. This is Rajaguna, this is Rajas. Remember, we are talking about it in the context of spiritual life, in the context of devotion, meditation, knowledge, God realization, in that context. In that context, this is a huge obstacle. It might be very fine if you're seeking to make your first million on Wall Street, to have this hunger. They encourage this kind of hunger. But that too, even in the corporate world, in the initial stages. Afterwards, they expect some maturity. So, even when I'm getting a lot, my desire for more just keeps on blazing, more and more. As the flames, as they say, if you pour butter into fire, the fire blazes even higher. If you're thinking, why would you pour butter into fire? I'm talking about ghee in the Vedic fire sacrifices. With the chanting of mantras, the ghee is poured into the fire, but the fire blazes even higher. Then what else? What else is an indication of Rajas? Greed is one indication. Pravritti nityam kurvad rupata. this constant busyness. Constant busyness. It seems to be a great quality. This is the entry ticket to Manhattan. If you're not busy, something is wrong with you. No, no, no. This is Rajoguna. This is Rajas. This constant busyness is the quality of the body mind, this Rajoguna, which it keeps you always jumping and hopping. People may praise you for it. You are the guy that people go to when they need something needs to be done. I remember we had this monk, he has passed now, so I can say. He was the hardest worker we ever saw. He told the head of the monastery, Swami, I am available to you from 4 a.m. to 11 a.m. From the morning, the Mangalarati from that time till 11 when I go to bed. Anything, anytime you want. And he meant it. And there were different departments in the monastery, like the kitchen and stuff like that. And he was the one who did more than like half a dozen, or at least 3 or 4 of us combined. He used to look after 3 or 4 departments. We asked why. He said, have you seen this is the dhobi's gadha, that means the donkey on which the washerman puts his dirty laundry and he goes to wash so unless a load is put on the donkey is a load-bearing animal. Unless a load is put on it, it will not start moving. There's no work to be done. So you must load me up with enough work and responsibility and pressure, then I'll start moving. No, this is this constant desire to, the inability to stop. I noticed about this monk, the moment he sat for meditation, he fell asleep. He would fall asleep. He's working like a dynamo, but when he's sitting for meditation, he fall asleep. Sit for scripture class, he would fall asleep. So this is actually Rajas, Rajoguna. Nityam kurvad rupata, constant doing, the nature of constant activity, physical activity, busyness. Then karmanam, he says, arambha, karmanam arambha, grihadi nirmana udyama. Karmanam arambha means constantly taking up new projects. Yes, you must have a project in life, but multiplicity of projects. This, that and the other thing. And he gives an example. Building houses, etc. So this, if you see monks, I heard this from a senior monk. He went to the Himalayas to meditate. And he said, I met this wonderful young monk. You could see such a noble bearing, all renouncing. And you could see it in the fire of renunciation. And you could see it in his eyes, a genuinely spiritual person. But what was he doing? He was building a cave. Once the cave is ready, I can meditate. And all day long, he would excavate, soil and rocks from the cave, which he was actually cleaning it out. And then he would go all the way down to the Ganga, that is the big climb down, get water and come up there. And this monk who told me, he said, I would look at him and think, if all that effort he put into meditation, how quickly he would advance in spiritual life. Oh no. I have to make a cave, and then the cave is ready, then I will meditate. It's a trick of the mind. It's a trick of the mind. It is said that, yes, when a sattvic state of mind comes and a desire for spiritual practice, it could be Vedantic study or a self-inquiry, it could be devotional worship or prayer, it could be listening to bhajans, it could be sitting for meditation and repeating the mantra. If the mood comes over you, do it, because it will pass. The sattvic thing has come at that point. Do it, that will increase then. Yes.
Desire to do good works and keeping busy doing good works, is that rajasic?
Desire to do good works or keeping busy doing good works, if it is done as karma yoga, as a worship of the Lord, good. It is a spiritual practice. However, there the harmony of the 4 yogas taught by Swami Vivekananda is important. So I am doing good work, I am busy helping people and all of that, whatever work I am doing, but am I also doing my regular meditation? Do I also have the capacity of stepping back, pulling back from that? Opposite is also bad. Oh, I am meditating, I won't work now. I am such a great meditator. There is the funny story of the monk who, the guru called, hey, don't sleep early in the morning, come and meditate. He said, just a little more maybe. He slept. And after some time, the guru shouted, hey, now it's time to clean the meditation hall. Come and help me. And so this lazy monk, he turned over the side and maybe a little more sleep. Then the guru said, hey, I'm going to the village for begging for alms. Come and join me. And even then the monk didn't come. Finally the guru said, after some time he came back and said, hey, lunch is served. Come and join me. And this young monk thought, well, I've been disobeying my guru since the morning. Maybe I should obey him now. There is a story in this autobiography of a yogi, Paramahamsa Yogananda. He said he was meditating in the monastery in Calcutta, and his guru, what's his name? Yukteswar Giri. So his guru Yukteswar Giri was sweeping the courtyard, and he shouted from downstairs, hey, come down and help me to sweep the courtyard. And so Paramahamsa Yogananda, he says, the old man is always after me to meditate, and now that I'm meditating, he's disturbing me. Well, I won't reply. He said, I sat quietly, I didn't even reply, didn't acknowledge it. And immediately came the reply reply means as if to his thought from downstairs, from the courtyard. His guru said, if you're too good for this world, you wouldn't be in this. Come and help me. If you're too good for this world, you wouldn't have been born here. You're so great that it's beneath you to sweep the courtyard. Yes. So this balance is necessary. Balance of meditation, engagement in work, study, devotion, philosophy, devotion, all of that is good. It's good actually. One has to see what really helps. I used to struggle with meditation when in our training days. To get up at 3:40, remember it's the hot, sultry weather of Calcutta, and it was summer, and you'd have a sweaty night, don't get good sleep, but the bell rings at 3:40, you have to get up and go for meditation. So you go and sit for meditation, and there I am dozing, and I wasn't alone in my defense. I remember one senior monk, poor Swami, he tried so hard, he'd tell us, would plead with us, don't fall asleep immediately, struggle a little bit. Or the heat, or battling with the mosquitoes. And then our duties changed, we had some work to be done. So I got this early morning cleaning of the temple before the gates of the monastery open and people come in. So Swami Brahmananda's temple, just on the bank of the river, Ganga, so I had to clean it instead of the early morning meditation. You go to the temple, the Mangalarti is over, then you go to your work, if that's your work, early morning work. And I found I enjoyed it much more than meditation. Much more. It was physical work, it was hard work. For more than 1 hour I had to sweep and pick up the dry leaves and scrub the temple. And the old Swami in the temple would come and say, it's not done, do it again. And it was hard work, but I really enjoyed it and benefited. See, what was happening is from tamas to rajas. And it was a spiritual plus for me, because I still remember today with joy and peace in my mind that that 1 hour, 1.5 hours early in the morning for 2 months I did it. And there was only Swami Brahmananda and me in the darkness and the river Ganga flowing by. It was a meditation. So work can be a meditation, very uplifting meditation, yes. In the presence of God, in the presence of the divine, you are working, serving. It's a good meditation, really good. One senior Swami of our order told me this once. He said, my boy, there are yogis who can make spiritual progress, overcome spiritual obstacles in meditation. There are such people are there. But they are rare and far in between. For the rest of us, he included himself in that, but I know he is a very, very great monk. He said, for the rest of us, a little bit of external struggle is necessary. Little struggle externally. Could be family, job, health, anything. The cold, the pressure. It's necessary for spiritual development. Then next, Ashama idam kritva idam karishyami ityadi sankalpa vikalpa anuparamaha. So he says ashama, ceaselessness. What is ceaselessness? He explains here. Having accomplished this, I will accomplish that. To-do list. Now all of this sounds like really good management advice, Your HR department will tell you, counsel you, do that, Have the project and have the to-do list and do your time management and all of that. All of that he's saying this is Rajoguna. Having done this, I will do that next. What's wrong with it? And he says, Anuparama. And it doesn't stop. You see a gap somewhere in that, let's fill it up, let's do something. Might be the most inane thing. Might be the most useless time waster. But open, no. What I will not do is sit quietly and meditate. What I will not do is go back to Vedanta. I've done the Vedanta thing, Friday class, it's done. No, Vedanta is supposed to spread over my whole day. That sounds like such a drag. No, it is joy, it is happiness. It's like people say, no, meditate, okay, but how long do I have to meditate? It's like a big chore that has been imposed upon us. It should be like, the Sattva Guni will say it is difficult for that person to come out of meditation, would like to stay longer hours in absorption. Then what else? Spriha, uchchavacheshu, drishtamatreshu, vastushu, itastata jigriksha. Says, all the good and the bad and the inane, the desire to keep on acquiring. He says, spriya means thirst. The moment, drishtamatreshu, the moment I see it, and nowadays online, Amazon, I see it, I must have this, and I must have that. I must have this one also and that one also. And keep on acquiring stuff, or planning to acquire stuff. And returning stuff also. And getting more stuff. He says, this. And hardly any of it ever necessary, ever to be used, or of any particular benefit to life, certainly not to spiritual life. And the time it takes up, the expense, the money which is spent, energy which is spent, and the more we have at home, the more the mind is scattered in those things. That's why monks have minimal possessions. Have very little, because the more the sense of possession, this is mine, remember, a bit of your mind is given there already. So these are all signs of rajas. Again, to be applied to oneself, not to others. By these, one can know that Rajoguna has increased in me. Then number 13. Aprakasho pravrittishcha, aprakasho pravrittishcha, pramado moha evacha, pramado moha evacha, tamasyeta nijayante, tamasyeta nijayante, vivriddhe kurunandana, vivriddhe kurunandana. Darkness, inactivity, inadvertence, as also delusion, these prevail, O descendant of Kuru, that is Arjuna, when tamas predominates. Let me make a point here before I forget. This is tamas, is inadvertence, you might forget. It's an important point. Why we should not be even attached to sattva guna. I'm going back to the earlier verse. When the mind is calm and you're enjoying the peace of that, we are also warned, don't get attached to that. Don't feel, I am so learned, I know so much, my mind is so alert and I am so happy, I'm so peaceful, I'm so meditative. It's such a joy to be like this. Remember, that's sattva guna. You are the witness of that. If I do not do that, what will happen is, in a subtle way, I'll start enjoying the peace of the sattvic mind. Again, that's fine. It's far better than all the other stuff. Rajas and tamas. No. What will happen is when I start enjoying the peace of and the happiness in the sattvic mind, raga, attachment generates slowly. It's a sattvic kind of attachment. A preference for that kind of a mindset. A preference for that kind of a life, it begins. And then, even that preference is fine, but the subtle enjoyment of that state, it increases desire, and desire as raga is connected to rajas. Slowly Rajaguna will increase, and it will sweep aside Sattva guna. When Rajaguna increases, what will happen is that desire will transform into lobha, into greed, more of that. It's still subtle, it's a spiritual level, at the mental level. More of that kind, I want more and more of that kind of a life. That lobha, that increases, that leads to delusion. You're subtly moved away from the spiritual path. And if by chance some poor fellow obstructs your meditation and your peace of mind, then you give him a piece of your mind. Then it gets transformed into anger, dvesha, anger. And that leads to moha, delusion again, back to tamoguna. See how it immediately slides down from sattva to rajas to tamas. The moment you are trapped by any one of these, you'll be in the whirlpool of all three going round, and it will pull us down immediately to rajas and tamas. Not that, and this subtle enjoyment of the desire of peace in the mind, it will not be limited to that desire alone. Then all the other desires in the mind also will come and queue up. Me too. Give me a chance. I want this desire to be fulfilled. Now this is tamoguna. Aprakasho pravrittischa pramada moha evacha. What does the commentator say? Aprakasho viveka bhrangshaha. Darkness. Darkness, what kind of darkness? It deludes or covers over my viveka, my discernment, right and wrong, what is to be done, what is not to be done, what is my duty, what is not my duty, what should I say at this moment, what should I not say. This discrimination, this discernment, right thought, right decision, this gets covered over. I might become very angry and think I'm justified in it. This tamas, rajas is there and tamas is coming. Apravritti anudyamaha, lack of effort. Lack of effort. Both are calm and quiet. The tamasic person and the sattvic person is a rajasic person who is dynamic and restless. The sattvic person is calm, and the rajasic person is also calm. Both are sitting and meditating. One is meditating, other one is sleeping. And both feel I am meditating very well. So one monk told me, one day he said in the monastery, early morning meditation, I felt I was meditating so well. That day it was going particularly well. Then I felt a gentle blow in my back and looked back. The other monk, this cloth which we have, it's called an Uttariya. He was hitting me with the Uttariya. And I looked back and, what? Sleep if you must. Why are you snoring? Don't snore. And he was fast asleep, and in his sleep was thinking, wow, this is really good meditation. So that is anyudyama, the lack of effort. And here is subtle effort is meant. Sitting quietly and then internally focusing. That takes subtle effort. Pramada, kartabya artha anusandhana rahityam. Inadvertence, the inability to do my duty. Inability to know, what am I supposed to do that? I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. And see, it's like I have a to-do list. And this is what I'm going to do. I've decided this is what I'm going to do. And I don't do it. So, it's my own decision, which illogically I am contradicting myself. But I don't do it. Why? Laziness, lack of effort. So, anudyamaha, lack of effort. And so this kartavyata, anusandhana rahityam, this complete lack of orientation about what I am supposed to do and what I am not supposed to do. Moha, mithya abhinivesha, a deluded identification with some sudden, you can't hear me? I can hear. Some sudden project or some kind of, something occurs to me and I'm off in that direction. Although there might be more important work to be done right now. There's some urgent stuff to be done. And a fancy catches me and I'm off following that fancy, which has nothing to do with my duty in life, with my higher purpose in life. That's also tamas. It might look like activity. I don't know if I can make myself clear, but I think we understand what is meant. a time waster. Internet scrolling. That was not there during Krishna's time. He would have said, that is definite, that is not even rajas, that's tamas. That's tamas.
Doom scrolling.
It's called doom scrolling, yes, doom scrolling. It's tamas. Procrastination and tamas is, I'm engaged in it, happily hours go away, and at the end of it, what happens is, I feel a complete, internal lack of cohesion. I feel not enriched by these last 2-3 hours. I feel miserable at the end of it. That's a sign of a tamasic mind, having let time flow in this inadvertent way. Yes. Then 14. Yada sattve pravriddhetu, yada sattve pravriddhetu, pralayam yati deha bhrit, pralayam yati deha bhrit, tadottama vidam lokan, tadauttama vidam lokan, amalan pratipadyate, amalan pratipadyate. If the embodied self meets with death when sattva is predominant, then it attains the pure spheres of the worshippers of the highest deities. So if in a sattvic state of mind one can give up the body, that means death happens, one goes to Brahmaloka, quote unquote, in general, heaven. A higher destiny awaits us. And in the rajasic state, we are again reborn in some kind of human birth. And in a tamasic state, in animal birth. Now don't take this too seriously, because it also depends heavily upon our past karma, good and bad karma. But a sattvic state is conducive to the better karma being activated. A rajasic state is sort of the middling karma, and a tamasic state while dying is the danger of our bad karma taking over. Number 15. Rajasi pralayam gatva, rajasi pralayam gatva, karma sangishu jayate, karma sangishu jayate, tatha pralinas tamasi, tatha pralinas tamasi, mudha yonishu jayate, mudha yonishu jayate. If it meets with death, the sentient being, when rajas is predominant, then it is born amongst those who are attached to work. Likewise, if it meets with death, when tamas is predominant, then it is born in the wombs of irrational species, that is, animals and plants. All right, we'll wrap it up here. Does anybody have a question or no? Oh, so many. You have already had your say. So yeah. No, it's all right. You can just ask the question. Yeah.
So, Shloka 11, where you said all the senses were illumined.
Will be illumined, yes. Alert.
Hyper alert, as you said.
Not hyper alert.
Okay, alert.
Not drugged alert. Not caffeinated alert. Luminous alert, yeah.
Would that, or could that become a source of distraction?
No, not in that sense. That's a rajasic state, when I'm very alert and so small thing distracts me also. Only in some cases, I see what you mean. In the presence of the Holy Mother, I think, this cloth, which it comes in those days, they would have to, it would come in big pieces, you would have to tear it. When you tear cloth, there's a tearing sound. Somebody did it in her presence and she felt it like in her heart, like a blow to her heart. Now imagine the state of the mind of such a person. So yes, you are right. Distraction means small things, it can feel like a thunderbolt for them. Small impurities, small disturbances, their minds are very centered and quiet. Sometimes when they're absorbed, even big disturbances they cannot hear. That's because the mind is completely absorbed. But if the mind is open to the world, and still it's very quiet inward, a sudden sound, for example. Swami Shankaranandaji was the president of the order. He was specially sensitive. So he's the president of the whole order in the monastery. One monk told me, this was in the 1950s, a young man, he had come to become a monk. His duty was there was a big clock outside the room of the president. You have to wind it up and set the time right. And that evening, he had forgotten to do it. He remembered at the evening arati, after the evening arati was over, when all the monks are supposed to meditate, he suddenly remembered. It happens when you have inadvertently forgotten to sit for meditation, you suddenly remember, all sorts of work comes to your mind. Oh, that was done. This I should have done. Oh, this still remaining. Yes. So he remembered, the president, the clock outside the president's room. I didn't wind it up today. But this is the meditation time. The whole monastery is absolutely quiet. So he said, I sneaked back up this is on the first floor. The president's room was next to Swami Vivekananda's room. Of course, Swami Vivekananda had passed away 50 years before that. So he went there and he carefully put a stool in front of the door. Inside the president was there, Swami Shankaranji, and meditating probably. And he stood up carefully on the stool. He took off his sandals, stood up on that stool, reached for the clock, and there was a click or a tick. And from inside, and Swami Shankaranji had a booming voice. I never heard him, it was long before my time, but those who have heard him, he was a huge man, and he was scarily still. He would sit like a statue. And somebody told me, in fact my grandmother told me, she was a disciple of Swami Shankaranji. She said, it's like a voice coming out of a cave. So from that voice, and this monk told me that voice came from the room. At this hour, who dares abandon his meditation seat and wander about? So he said, I jumped from the tool and I ran for it, leaving my sandals there and the tool outside his door. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he was again called to task for that. But see, a slight sound, just the slightest of sounds. Another monk, this again Swami Shankarananda, because you told me I remember this. Another monk, good stories. Another monk told me this story. He would walk in the pumping, and he was called by Swami Shankaranji. Come, give me your sandals. Swami, what are you saying? Yes, I will put rubber pads on them. You walk noisily. And the other one was told to me by my own father, because his mother, my grandmother, was a disciple of Swami Shankaranji. So when my father got his first job, my grandmother told him, go to Guru and bow down to him, take his blessings. So my father said, he was a young man, so he went to Swami Shankarananda, bowed down. Swami Shankarananda was a man of very few words. He would sit unnaturally still. So he bowed down, and when he bowed down, a coin which was in his pocket slipped out and fell with a clink on the floor, like a clink. Swami Shankaranji said, pick it up, you will need it. Yes.
Excuse me, Swami. We need some assistance from those involved in Dora's care at the moment.
Yes, Ramant, I can just see.
We need a male as well.
Somebody else who can help. Patrick is there. Have I done we'll do the peace chant now. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.